Hey everyone, this is Taehyung. Before we start, I want to know where you're listening from. Drop your country in the comments below. I stepped out of the side corridor behind the venue, my body carrying the kind of exhaustion that makes the air feel thicker, heavier, almost tangible like sunlight through honey. It wasn't the tired that you can sleep away. It was the kind that comes after you've given your voice, your energy, your heartbeat to a stage, to a night that swallows everything you have and still asks for more. The crew was packing up. Flight cases rattled, a fluorescent light hummed somewhere overhead, and then it happened, the small moment that grows into a truth you can't ignore. The moment you think you can brush off until it follows you home, sits in your kitchen, lingers by the shower, waits for you in the dark while you try to close your eyes. I heard my name shouted, not the stage name, not even the surname. The name my family uses when the rice steams and the soup is too hot, when laughter turns into coughing, when someone slaps the table in the middle of a story just to keep it from running away. I turned. That name carries gravity. A man jogged toward me, phone raised, front camera ready, arm extended like a spear. I could read the caption in his eyes before he spoke. Proof or it didn't happen. I lifted my hand in the universal sign. Please, not now. I said the two syllables that feel innocent until they meet someone else's demand. I said no. He didn't hear it as I intended. He heard judgment, a wall, a challenge. The smile painted on his face twisted into the kind of smile you give when you realize the gift isn't yours. He stepped closer, phone nearly grazing my cheek, lens glaring like an accusation. I said it again, I'm sorry, not now, and moved aside. But some people believe access is their birthright, that the moment you deny them, you're doing something wrong. A shoulder press first, the palm to my chest second. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make me step back and something inside rise to claim its ground. The bruise, if we can call it that, wasn't on skin. It was on habit, on memory, on the thing that says, always apologize for needing air, always yield, always accommodate. I used to tell myself that saying no was always cheaper than the cost of explaining it. That night, I realized cost isn't measured in seconds, but in what happens after. Two syllables, no, could echo in a kitchen or follow you through the hours when no one watches. That lesson came first from my mother, the one person whose patience and insistence on boundaries never wavered. People always ask about the conditions my mother sets for the woman I might one day love. They imagine ultimatums embroidered in gold thread, lists long as a concert set. It's always simpler and heavier than they think. One condition, one small circle you never bargain away. She told me, the person who stands beside you must guard the sacred spaces, your kitchen name, your breath after a show, the hours when the world is done, but your heartbeat is still catching up. She said, love that cannot honor boundaries will gladly sell you for applause. I made that condition mine not to control, not to measure love, but to protect what makes love possible. Call it privacy. I call it oxygen. You learn that condition in nights like this, when a lens becomes a planet and a hand insists you orbit. You learn it when the alley is a hungry audience and the world confuses attention for affection. And then you remember the people who carry you when the noise gets too loud, Namjoon in the studio with the lamp too bright, telling you, say no cleanly. Jin in the kitchen at midnight, the pot clicking like a metronome for care. Yi guarding silence like a rest note. Jose walking into the room like sunrise, dimming when someone else needs light. Jim standing between fire and audience, kindness made of decisions. Taehyung framing moments, moving 2 centimeters. So truth fits without cutting. There are 6 different ways to say the same sentence. You are allowed to keep what keeps you. That night, I drove home with the alley still vibrating in my chest. Neon passed, families crossing, dogs reading the bush like letters. The radio stayed off because no story should enter unless invited. I felt the truth. A shove can echo louder than 1,000 hands of love. Gratitude is deliberate, a volume you turn up yourself. I did, replaying stadiums, breathing as one lung. How that breath kept me alive in ways math cannot measure. Gratitude is not the opposite of boundaries. It is the house where boundaries become furniture, not walls. There is a story people tell. I supported you, so you owe me. But support that demands access is not support. The love I have for those who carry us is wider than roads, stronger than a pressed palm, more durable than batteries trying to capture a moment. Love is a river, not a spill in a bottle. If you try to contain it, you only break it. At a red light, I caught my reflection. No mark on the skin, only the echo behind my teeth. Why did 2 syllables feel like betrayal? Perhaps it was handed to me in childhood. Say yes, or you are ungrateful. I've seen the cost. Good people hollow from giving too much. Artists ghosting through life because yes became a habit. Kindness corroded into performance. Saying no honors the yes. The condition taught by my mother is not fear but reverence. Guard the name, the table, the hour after the lights fade. Whoever loves you will honor this. My brothers, my friends, they teach it silently, in gestures, in patience, in small mercies. That night I parked, the city breathing around me. I asked, would it be easier to give 2 seconds and be done? Easier isn't truth, and truth is the only currency that matters. The alley, the shove, the lesson they followed me home, but softened in the memory. I called my mother. We spoke not of the shove, but of soup, of family, of plants that refuse to die. The condition hit in those mundane words like a signature on the back of a page. Yes, keep the hour, she said. That night, I slept with my phone like a book I promised to finish tomorrow. Dreams came and went, polite visitors. Morning brought the same alley, now quiet, a thin line of air remembering the shove. Give the world your best, she reminded me through the echoes, without giving your bones. The condition is rhythm, a section keeping time while melody wanders. Dates unknown, faces unseen, but the language is mine. Every time I speak it quietly, someone inside stops trembling and stands taller, ready for the stage, ready to sing like the song was never for sale. At the label, meetings asked for access for my family, my breath, my kitchen. I said, work, yes. Table, no. The room chilled. Someone joked about authenticity. I repeated the condition like a prayer. They nodded, unsure whether to admire or move on. Boundaries are contagious. Sometimes they heal people you will never meet. Rehearsal was mercy in motion. Namjoon colonized corners with silence full of work. He calibrated loops like constellations. Jose stretched phrases into bridges. Jim found notes that taught bodies they are built for both effort and ease. Taehyung shifted air, moved lights, opened doors for the song to breathe. We worked until effort became miracle. 7 people carrying one thing without tearing it, passing hand to hand, saying no to claim, yes to guard. Morning light filtered through the curtains, soft and tentative, almost apologetic for waking the world so gently. I sipped the tea. My mother insisted on brewing just right, the way leaves dance in hot water, releasing secrets slowly. The kitchen smelled of comfort, and yet the quiet carried the weight of decisions I would face in a lifetime. Not all choices are loud. Some, like whispers in the corners of a familiar room, demand more attention. I thought about the incident in the alley again, the shove, the intrusion, the camera's glare. Most people would forget by tomorrow, scroll past the clip if it appeared online. But for me, moments like these leave fingerprints. They are lessons hidden in discomfort. My mother's condition, the principle she set for someone who might love me one day, became clearer in that reflection. It isn't about control, it's about protection. Protecting the self from the relentless hunger of the world, the way a gardener protects a delicate bloom from frost and careless hands. I remember asking her once, in a casual tone, though my voice carried an undercurrent of fear. Mom, is it too much to ask? She looked at me with those eyes that seemed to read the skeleton of a soul. She smiled faintly, and in that expression there was no judgment, only insistence. No, Tai, it's not too much. It's necessary. Whoever stands beside you must understand that love isn't everything. Sometimes it is air, silence, boundaries. I nodded, pretending I fully understood, but understanding grows in increments, not leaps. The phone buzzed. It was my manager. Meeting in an hour. I dressed quickly, choosing clothes that didn't draw attention but carried confidence. In the mirror, I caught the familiar weight under my eyes. Sleep may fade, but echoes remain. On my way out, the hallway reflected my stride. Rhythm of steps, heartbeat, breath, every movement a rehearsal, not just for stage but for life. The alley incident had already become a metaphor, a measure of what I could and could not let penetrate my space. The car ride was quiet. Street lights faded as they emerged. I looked out the window at the city waking, a river of motion, cars, bicycles, pedestrians. Life pressed against windows, asking for glimpses, but I held back, guarding the interior world my mother taught me to protect. That lesson had already started shaping choices, from the people I trust to the moments I share. At the studio, the atmosphere was tense but familiar. My bandmates were there, each absorbed in preparation. The air carried notes, instruments tuned like breathing, and the quiet hum of anticipation. Namjoon caught my eye, a nod exchanged without words. Boundaries are understood without explanation among those who carry the same weight. And yet, even in spaces where safety feels natural, one can still encounter intrusion. That day, an assistant asked about my personal life, subtly, cleverly. I smiled, polite but firm, repeating the conditions silently. Some doors are closed, and the key is not for everyone. Rehearsals began. Choreography, harmonies, camera angles. Every step, every note, every pause, intentional, deliberate, sacred. During breaks, I spoke quietly with the team about minor adjustments, gestures that would enhance performance. And all the while, the incident in the alley lingered, teaching a silent curriculum. Respect is shown through restraint, love through understanding. The one who would stand beside me must inherently grasp this. Love isn't just affection, it's acknowledgement of silence, of unspoken need, of protected spaces. Lunch came and went. Conversations floated around me, trivial in comparison to the lessons etched into the day. I thought about my future wife not as a distant figure, but as a real person I hope to meet, someone who understands the depth of patience, the subtlety of care. The condition is simple in words but complex in practice. She must honor the rhythm of my life, the invisible walls, the hours after applause when the world expects everything and gives nothing. Later, in a quiet corner, I spoke to my reflection again. Not vanity, not rehearsal for an audience, but acknowledgement. Every man carries shadows. Some are born, some imposed by the world, some learn from the people who raise us. My mother's guidance carved the boundary that separates nurture from depletion. Without it, affection can become suffocating. With it, love becomes enduring. Evening rehearsals ended, lights dimmed, the team dispersed. I walked alone down the corridor, feeling the echo of steps, each one a reminder of autonomy, of the right to say yes or no without apology. The lesson was clear. Respect is earned when it's asked for, but freedom is kept when it is honored. That night, the city outside felt larger, softer, more forgiving, perhaps because I had claimed space not through aggression but through care. On the ride home, I spoke to my mother. Her voice, warm, steady, grounding, reminded me why the condition matters. It's not about limiting you, Tai. It's about preserving the life you've built, the breath that keeps you creative, the quiet moments no one else sees. I realized then that a simple principle protection of self can be revolutionary in a world that expects transparency, performance, and availability. I thought again about the alley. What had seemed like a violation became a teacher. The shove, the intrusion, the camera lens, they all revealed the stakes of living openly. Without boundaries, identity dissolves. With them, freedom blooms. That night, before sleep claimed me, I whispered a promise. Whoever stands beside me will understand, will honor, and will not take lightly the hours when the world is loud, but my life is quiet. As I drifted into dreams, I thought about gratitude, respect, love. They are intertwined, fragile yet enduring. My mother's condition, simple as it seems, is the map to navigating life's intricate terrain. It is the pulse beneath the performance, the rhythm beneath the applause, the silent guardian of moments that matter most. And so, the lesson continues. Boundaries, respect, love, they are not optional. They are the compass guiding a life, a relationship, a career, a heart. Whoever walks beside me must carry that understanding not as a burden, but as a shared rhythm. And in that, I find both safety and hope. The night had settled like a soft blanket over the city, and I found myself sitting by the window, the faint glow of streetlights spilling onto the floor like spilled ink. My guitar leaned quietly against the wall, almost reverent in its stillness, and the hum of the city felt distant, softened by the thick glass. Some nights, after performances and rehearsals, this is where clarity comes, not in the spotlight, not in applause, but in quiet observation of ordinary life. I thought about the small circles my mother had taught me to protect, the names she whispered in kitchens, the hours after the lights dim, the breath taken for oneself before offering it to the world. Those moments are not negotiable, they are sacred. Whoever becomes my partner must understand this, not as a demand but as a rhythm we keep together. This isn't control, this is care. And care, I have learned, requires attention and respect. The phone buzzed on the counter, an intrusion I allowed only because I knew who was calling. My manager, a text from a fellow artist, a reminder of schedules and obligations. But the alley, the shove, the camera, they replayed in my mind not to fuel anger, but as evidence of why these boundaries exist. The world is fast, intrusive, and sometimes unforgiving. It doesn't wait for the quiet moments, and it doesn't always recognize what is sacred unless you protect it. I brewed tea slowly, the leaves unfolding like stories. Each swirl in the cup reminded me of patience, of letting things reveal themselves in their own time. The condition my mother set wasn't just for love, it was a guideline for life, for interactions, for work, for the moments when expectation presses too close. The right person beside me doesn't simply comply. She observes, she honors, she moves through the world knowing some doors are closed and others open because we choose them to be. I recalled a day at rehearsal, the room alive with movement and music. Namjoon adjusted a mic with care, not because anyone asked, but because it mattered to him that the space be preserved. Jin handed over a spoon mid-laughter, the gesture unnoticed by most but full of intention. Yi calibrated the sound to hold a rhythm that allowed others to shine without losing their own voice. Jim, Taehyung, Jose, they each moved in the room with a consciousness that spoke louder than words. It wasn't performative. It was preservation, protection, devotion to craft and each other. And I thought the same principle applies to love. Whoever steps beside me must understand that giving freely isn't the same as surrendering everything. That generosity is only meaningful when it doesn't erase the self. My mother's condition is a map. Honor the quiet, defend the small circles, cherish the breaths between performances. The stage can demand everything, but offstage, life must have its own rhythm. Later that night, I spoke with my mother. Her voice, warm and patient, reminded me of the foundation beneath the lessons. Tai, it's not about fear, it's about reverence. Whoever loves you will see what needs to be preserved and help you guard it. Her words stayed with me, a lighthouse in the fog of expectation and obligation. Reverence, that was the word. Reverence for time, for space, for the integrity of life lived fully but softly. I reflected on past relationships, fleeting encounters, moments of misunderstanding. I realized many failed not because of lack of affection, but because attention was mistaken for understanding, presence for empathy. The condition my mother set is simple but profound. One must recognize that love unguarded becomes a commodity. Protected, it flourishes. That's the circle she spoke of, the space we must defend together. The city outside slept, but my mind wandered through alleys of memory. I remembered the push, the camera lens, the intrusion, not as trauma, but as a lesson in vigilance. Respect is not optional, it must be practiced daily. Whoever becomes my partner will not simply witness this. She will actively participate in keeping our shared world safe from intrusion, knowing that what seems small is often most vital. As dawn approached, I sat in silence, my guitar untouched, my thoughts turning inward. Gratitude, respect, love, they intertwine. Gratitude allows recognition of boundaries, respect enforces them, and love thrives within. Whoever walks beside me must understand this delicate interplay. Love isn't just what you give when watched, it's what you nurture when unseen. That is the essence of the condition. By mid morning, I prepared for another rehearsal, another day of giving my all. But now, with the clarity of the night's reflections, I moved through the routine differently. My steps were deliberate, my voice careful, my presence measured. The world may want my attention, my life, my moments for its own spectacle, but I hold them lightly, selectively, intentionally. The principle is no longer just taught, it is lived. Every interaction, every gesture, every choice carries the weight of the circles my mother taught me to preserve. And I realized love, like music, requires not just giving, but listening, breathing, and protecting the quiet spaces where life truly exists. Whoever shares this life with me will understand that not because they are instructed, but because they already speak the language. The day carried on with rehearsals, adjustments, and small moments of recognition between the team. Each smile, each nod, each pause reinforced the principle: protection, respect, attention. And I carried it with me, the condition my mother set, not as a rule to enforce, but as a rhythm to honor. It was not about restriction, it was about ensuring that life, love, and creativity have the space to breathe, to grow, and to last. By evening, as I returned home, the city felt different. Not quieter, not less demanding, but softer, as if the understanding of these circles had begun to shape the way I moved through the world. I brewed another cup of tea, settled by the window, and let the city's light mix with the reflection of the lessons learned. The condition is simple in language, but infinite in practice. Whoever walks beside me will learn to respect it, not because of obligation, but because love asks it naturally. I prepare for sleep, mindful of the quiet hours that follow the day's noise. Each breath, each small action, each reflection carried the same lesson. Some moments are for giving, some for guarding, some for both. And as I lay down, the understanding settled around me like a soft armor. The circle is protected. The principle is alive. And the person who will stand beside me one day will honor it not as a test but as a shared heartbeat. The next morning, the sunlight crept through the blinds slowly, painting the floor with stripes of gold and shadow. I stayed still for a moment, letting the quiet anchor me. The world outside was moving fast, buses rattling down streets, people hurrying with their invisible deadlines, and yet in this small room, time felt patient. I realized how precious it is to have a pocket of stillness, a place where no one can stake a claim on your moments. This is where the condition lives quiet, unassuming, but unbreakable. I made coffee, the familiar aroma grounding me. Each pour, each stir, each sip became a meditation. The circles my mother taught me to protect the hours after performances, the breath that belongs to oneself. The names spoken in kitchens and bedrooms alike aren't just rules. They are the framework for being human in a world that constantly demands more than we can give. Whoever becomes my partner will learn that these moments are non negotiable. They are not privileges to be earned, they are sacred spaces to be honored. Rehearsal called soon after, and the team was already in motion. Namjoon was scribbling in his notebook, Yi adjusting the sound levels, Jin testing a melody against the silence of the room. Jose was moving through stretches with an easy grace. Jim testing, phrasing, Taehyung adjusting light angles and shadows. Each of them was attentive, not just to the work, but to the atmosphere, the space, and the people around them. Their vigilance reminded me of my mother's lesson. Attention is a form of love, and protection is a form of care. During breaks, I reflected on past mistakes, moments when I had allowed the world to press too close, to take what I thought was generosity and turn it into vulnerability. The push of a hand, the glare of a lens, the intrusion into private life, they were not attacks on me alone. They were lessons on how easily boundaries can be crossed when respect is assumed instead of earned. My mother's condition is simple. Whoever loves you must recognize what is yours and help defend it. That recognition cannot be faked or forced. It must be instinctive. Lunch came quietly, almost ritualistic in its normalcy. I sat with the others, sharing food, exchanging small jokes, moments of understanding that don't need explanation. This is how it works. The small agreements, repeated over time, become the culture of care. Taeyong places the camera down and offers a smile, not because anyone demands it, but because it matters that the moment is preserved. Jin serves food with words and gestures combined, quietly reminding us that nourishment is both physical and emotional. Yi ensures silence has its place, that not every moment needs to be filled, that pause is a gift. I realized that love is exactly like this. Love is not only about giving it's about knowing when to step back, when to protect, when to observe, when to preserve. The condition my mother taught me isn't a restriction, it's a guide to creating an ecosystem where love can thrive. A partner who understands this does not need to be told each step. She moves naturally within the rhythm, honoring the circles without question. Afternoon rehearsals tested our stamina, and yet, the care we carry for each other allowed the work to flow. We moved through music, through choreography, through sound and silence, not for the audience, not for applause, but for each other and the integrity of what we create together. It's a lesson I carry into love as well. Whoever stands beside me will be part of this ecosystem, protecting the sacred spaces, knowing when to step in and when to step back. On the way home, the city felt alive in a new way. It wasn't the chaos of traffic or the noise of crowds. It was alive because I could observe it without losing myself. The sunlight bouncing off glass, the way shadows folded into corners, the small kindnesses of strangers passing by, all reminders that life's richness is found in details often overlooked. The circles my mother asked me to protect exist in these details. They are the quiet hours, the soft words, the unclaimed moments that are ours alone. That night, I cooked dinner slowly, appreciating the ritual. Each chop, each stir, each seasoning added was a meditation in itself. Love, attention, boundaries, they all intersect in these ordinary acts. Whoever will walk beside me one day will see this not as a chore, but as a way of honoring the life we share. I realized that these ordinary acts carry profound meaning. The condition isn't about grandeur, it's about survival, about maintaining the integrity of who we are amidst a world that constantly wants to rewrite our stories. Later, I sat by the window, tea in hand, reflecting on the day. The push, the lens, the intrusion, they were still in my mind, but now they existed as reminders, not wounds. Gratitude and protection exist side by side. It's possible to love the people who support us while still saying no to demands that endanger our inner circles. Love is expansive, but it is also careful. It requires reverence. My phone lit up with notifications, but I ignored them. Not out of disregard, but out of preservation. There is a time to engage and a time to protect, a balance that must be maintained. Whoever will share this life will understand that love cannot flourish in constant exposure. Some moments, some names, some spaces must remain private, unbargained for, unclaimed. That is the essence of the condition. As I lay down to rest, the city hum continued outside, distant but present. I thought about the small circles again, the kitchen name, the after-show breath, the quiet hours of reflection. They are not obstacles. They are lifelines. Whoever loves me will not seek to dismantle them, but will protect them as fiercely as they would protect their own. The condition my mother set is a guide for life, not a checklist. It is a rhythm, a language, a way of existing fully and gently in a demanding world. Sleep came slowly, carried on the quiet confidence that I am not alone in understanding these truths. The city, the team, my family, my mother's wisdom, they form a constellation that lights the way, steady and unassuming. Love is not exposure, it is reverence. And whoever stands beside me will carry that understanding as naturally as they breathe. The condition, simple in its language, yet infinite in its application, lives in every choice, every pause, every act of care. As we reach the end of this journey together, I want to pause and acknowledge something that often goes unsaid. The value of presence, the quiet power of attention, and the depth of care that doesn't need an audience. Life often insists that we give, perform, and respond, but it rarely reminds us to protect, breathe, and honor our own spaces. The condition my mother shared with me was never about rules, judgment, or limitations. It was a lesson in reverence, a way to preserve the life that exists between the applause and the spotlight, between expectation and reality. It's about the hours when the music ends, but the heartbeat continues, the breaths that are yours alone, and the names that hold stories meant only for those who truly belong in your life. I want to thank every person who has stood beside me, whether in the spotlight or in the quiet corners of life. The people who respect boundaries, who give without consuming, who understand that love is a rhythm, not a performance. These are the ones who have taught me what it means to be human. Thank you to my family, whose lessons are not always spoken but always felt, whose care is subtle yet unyielding. Thank you to my brothers, who model generosity, protection, and devotion in ways that often go unnoticed but shape everything we create. And thank you to the fans who support, cheer, and love us while also trusting us to carry our hearts, our spaces, and our stories with dignity. Your love is never taken lightly. It is a river flowing both ways, never confined, never forced. To those who have been curious, questioning, or even critical, I say this: boundaries are not barriers, no is not refusal, and protecting your life is not selfish. The condition my mother taught me is a reminder that love and respect must coexist with freedom and privacy. To the future, to those who will share this life, and to the paths we have yet to walk, I carry the promise of care, attention, and reverence. May we all remember that the smallest circles, when protected, create the largest capacity for love, joy, and human connection. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this space with me. Thank you for believing that love, when honored and protected, is a force that never diminishes but only multiplies. And above all, thank you for allowing the quiet moments, the kitchens, the private hours, the breath between notes to exist, untouched, sacred, and alive.